What is going on, everybody? How are you guys doing on this Monday morning? Everybody's still frustrated. Everybody over it. Everybody just didn't care going into it. I know I'm a mixture of all three, but it was fun, right? Anyway, that's what we're here to do today. This is United vs. Everybody. I am your host, Sean. You guys probably already know that. We are here to discuss the match, talk a little news because West Ham rocked up to Old Trafford and ran out 2-0 winners thanks to some simple cutback goals and some just sloppy defending, sloppy ball watching from us, really. Nothing we haven't seen in the last couple of years, but it's stuff that you shouldn't have to coach. It's one of those things you shouldn't have to coach, in my opinion. But it is what it is. We're going to talk about that. I don't even know where to begin with a lot of it, but that's what we're here to do today. It's going to be a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a frustrating show, just because there's a lot more than the loss, the drop points that I'm frustrated about. Probably a little bit more upset with Yoro's situation than the loss. More upset with the players than I am with the loss. A little more upset with Amorim's decision making than I am with the loss personally. So it is what it is. I'm not even super fuming about the loss because I expected it. We kind of all thought maybe we would drop points. So it's just the other stuff that frustrated me. But I want you guys to get your thoughts in. Going to be probably a little bit of a longer stream today because I'm actually going to start with the match review, and then we're going to tackle the news. Kind of just want to get the negative stuff out of the way, and then we can focus on the other stuff. So like the video for me, subscribe if you are new. Please go check out memberships to learn how you can get more involved in the channel on a regular basis. Go check out GoGoalShop and go check out the UVE store. The link is in the description for all of that. I got to go through the spiel as always. Let me see who's in the chat before we dive in here. Rob, big up, hit those. Yes. Please hit the like button, subscribe. It does help the channel. It does get us on the road to 3K. We are cruising. You guys are all absolute legends. Got us to 2K super quickly. You guys realize you got me to 2K in like 8 or 9 months, which is insane. So big up everyone and get involved. Box says Phil, very lackluster performance. Yeah, it did. And it raises more questions in my opinion. I was wondering as I was watching that, are the players being told not to overdo it, not to kind of commit to these challenges and whatnot? Are they being told to kind of just chill a little bit, not sprint a whole lot? I don't know, but it did look like maybe the players were kind of holding back a little bit. Kind of like what you're saying, Box, felt a little bit like a friendly in some ways. It did. I'm not going to lie. It did feel like we just weren't kind of switched on. But then it felt like that a little bit in the first 20 minutes or so against Bilbao as well. We just weren't really quite up for it. Big up, Danny. Hope you're doing well, man. Hope your Monday's going well. So we saw a heavily rotated back four. And that I'm talking about the defense, the center backs, and the keeper. Obviously, Binder started. We saw Shaw come in and start. All these guys. So I was surprised as well to see Højlund start over Cheeto. I don't know what the thinking was behind that. Maybe the thinking was, let's get Højlund back into goal scoring form. Let's get him firing, get that confidence up, get that kind of rhythm going. I don't know. Cheeto didn't even get a sniff. Both Mount and Ahmad started, which was, interesting. They actually started as the 10s. So it is what it is. But that bench really highlighted just how light we are in the attack. Just looking at the bench right now, just literally Eriksen, if you want to count him as an attacker, Garnacho and Obi. So really just Garnacho and Obi are the only ones. And this is what happens because Xerxes out, right? We've kind of sold a lot of our other attackers. And we still, even if Xerxes fit, he's not really a striker. So we still have one striker aside from Cheeto. So it's just, we are very light. The quality and depth is just not there right now, especially when you start picking up injuries. Danny says, don't get me started on Højlund. Højlund had another mixed day. I'm not going to, he could have done better for a lot of his. I actually do think a lot of his link up and his hold up is better than what some people are. I think people need to go back and watch the match a little bit because his link up and his hold up play actually improving. But again, I don't look at that for strikers. I need the strikers to score goals, and so he's just it is what it is. Danny's just shocking. Shaw does just not look fit. And again, you get to a point at a certain age, like if Shaw were like 24 and he had been out, and if he was 24 now, you might have hope that he would kind of come back, right? He's not. The guy's like 29, 30 years old. It gets to a point where you just might have to not anymore. I don't know, but he can still put in a ball. Like, I'll give him that. Shaw's got probably one of the best crossers in the team, but that's just, he's got to get up there to do it. And I don't know if he's going to be able to get up there as regularly these days. Goals for George, big up. So it seems like all at once the veil covering the eyes of United fans worldwide was lifted, and they could see for the first time what sections of fans have been shouting, "Jury is out for Amorim." Well, jury's out simply because he joined mid-season and literally doesn't have any of his players. This is a big reason why Liverpool decided not to go for Amorim. Remember, they did want Amorim. They did meet with him. City wanted Amorim, and West Ham wanted Amorim. The big reason, though, Liverpool did it is because of how many changes were going to be needed in the squad to suit his system, and just how long that would take. And they didn't want to do that. They decided to opt for someone that played a little bit more similar style to Klopp. They wouldn't have to make so many changes. Again, if they had gotten Amorim, they'd probably be getting rid of a lot of players that they've managed to hold on to for a little while. But this is what it is. Ineos knew this going into it. Amorim didn't even want to join mid-season, and he wanted to join in the summer, but that was an ultimatum that he was handed by Ineos. So it is what it is. If they're going to give him an ultimatum, if they're not going to be able, if they're going to bring him in mid-season, they have to back him. So give Amorim time. Scotty, who does a lot with Jay and Marty, Jay Marty, they do the Scotty and Marty show. He put out a nice little comment. It's like, regarding Amorim, not yet having his players, and he equated it to like showing up to work and being demanding that you're doing a good job, but you don't have any of the equipment, like no computer, no nothing. Like he doesn't really have a whole lot of players. He got one first team signing really in January in Dorgu, and that was, got to remember too that Dorgu was a player that we identified way before Amorim even got here. So I wonder how much of that was an Amorim target and how much of that was a Barada, a Wilcox, and Ineos target. So that's kind of the way we're going to be moving. It's not going to be anymore the Ten Hag wants this player, Ten Hag gets this player kind of thing. This is a whole team-oriented recruitment process now. And so it's going to be interesting summer to show but again, looking at that starting 11, looking at that bench, we lose a couple players, we are effed, especially for this final, but we're going to talk about that. Looking at the action that went down in the first half, like we said in the preview, West Ham decided to sit deep. They looked to hit us on the counter. They did add a layer of a high press to that as well. If you guys noticed that, they were really pressing, mostly because you can do that against us. That's just, we tend to shit ourselves whenever we come up against the high press. We tend to struggle to move the ball out from the back, which is really kind of no surprise, right? That's just the way it's been for years and years and years. But again, it was on full force again. We saw just how much we struggle when we don't have the right players. You saw Aaron Wan-Bissaka moved off to their left, our right, to basically man mark Ahmad. We've used him for that purpose in the past. We've moved him off to the left to man mark like Salah and stuff in the past, or Saka, and he's done well. There were some positive signs from us to start this match yesterday. I thought maybe, a little boring. It was a little ponderous, but I thought we would be fine because the first 18, 20 minutes we were in control, right? But again, it was some of the ponderous, that hesitancy, that slow passing around the box that really started to frustrate me, because it's those kind of things that will come back to bite you in the ass later on when you don't take advantage of the possession and the control you're getting in the final phase in the opposition half, when you're not putting away the clear sitters that you're getting, or when no one's willing to take a shot. You won't get those chances very often. And then we saw, like, all it took for us is one little lapse, and that's kind of been the thing, right? Little individual errors, little lapses in concentration, just a little bit of switching off, we can see the goal, and then we just give ourselves this mountain to climb, and that's what it happened. I mean, Mount, Amas, Ugarte, they all had chances to put a ball in the box. Some of them even had chances to take shots, but they stopped. They opted to give it back to Bruno. It's like, and we saw this the entire match yesterday. It was really doing my head in, like, why are we just forcing the ball to Bruno all the time? Why does nobody else, are they being told to do that, or none of them just have the confidence to do it? Because Like, I don't understand how professional footballers, or if they're being told to do this, how coaches don't see like how much time that wastes doing. You're just killing every opportunity you get by doing that. It's really, really frustrating. I kind of liked a little bit what I saw from Ugarte. Obviously, he was majorly responsible for the late goal we conceded, but to start, he impressed me with the way he was dropping deep. He was collecting the ball. He was really operating as a deep line playmaker, which he did do at times at PSG. There were many, many times where Ugarte was the deepest midfielder at PSG. That was his role. That was, a couple of years ago, and he was still raw back then. He would still struggle with decision making in those moments. He does. I mean, that's most players do. But I like to see him adding a little bit more to his game. I think people just they don't quite see sometimes that Ugarte is not just a defensive six. To start this season, he was actually, a lot of his ball progression was actually very good. And now he's yesterday he took on that responsibility, like I said, of dropping deep. Someone has to do it. We can't only have Bruno doing it. These players are going to have to show that they can do a little bit more than just sit here and do this one thing. Because if you're not able to offer a little bit more, if you can't, put in a 7, 6, 7, 8 out of 10 on and off the ball, no matter what position you're in, you could very easily be moved on. And so it was nice to see Ugarte doing a little bit more of that. He had an excellent moment where just a little bit, like just outside of his own box, a little drop of the shoulder left Kudus in the dust, and Ugarte was able just to carry the ball into midfield. That's what I want to see more of from Ugarte. Let's see the positives, though. They quickly dissipated because, like I said, if you're in control, you have the ball, you're kind of working possession up the pitch into that final third. You have to do something with it, and just we haven't, and it cost us yesterday. It was very frustrating. And then, like I said, it's just simple switching off sees us concede a goal, and we give ourselves too much work to do. So the first goal, Wan-Bissaka gets this ball, and literally no pressure on him whatsoever, and just allows him to just pick his pass. No one is stepping to him at all. And then finds Kudus in the box, who's got literally nothing but space. And he flashes it across the net, and he finds Souček, who just shouldn't have been just unguarded. So this is how this play started. So you look at where Wan-Bissaka gets the ball right here. This is when he first gets the ball. There's literally no United player within 5 yards of him. The closest one, it looks like, I can't tell if that's Mazraoui right there. Mazraoui's the closest one. Literally everyone else is like 10 yards away from him. So this is where he first gets the ball, Wan-Bissaka. And he's still on the ball. Nobody is stepping to him. Everyone is just happy to let him do what he wants to do. Oh no, that's Ahmad, sorry. Still carries it all the way in, almost to the very center of the pitch. Almost, he's getting right up in the center of the box. Now everyone's like, oh crap, now maybe I'll step off my line. And now the closest person is Mazraoui, but he's still 5 yards away. And if you look right there, I don't know what's going on here defensively. I think that's Ugarte and Mazraoui. So Mazraoui steps, tries to get to, and then Ugarte is like, oh crap. So because Ahmad did not put enough pressure on him, now Mazraoui's got to leave Kudus. And you can see Kudus is waiting for Mazraoui to do this. And Ugarte realizes in this moment that he realized, oh shit, because now Kudus has got nothing but space to run into. There's no other United players looking for that. And that's when Wan-Bissaka just puts that ball right through Mazraoui and Ahmad. And that's it. That's just switching off, nobody stepping up, nobody taking the initiative. How many times have we talked about that this season? It's absolute garbage. And you're like, Ahmad tries to make up for it. He goes to ground, right? You remember that? He kind of dives in both feet, completely just falls for the dummy by Kudus, who just, Ahmad's just sitting on his ass in the box, takes himself out of the play. And then Amos, completely wrong-sided Souček either. Just poor defending all around, switching off, nobody just taking initiative. We've seen this how many times? This isn't just an Amorim thing. I've said this many, many times. You remember that Chelsea match last season where we conceded like a couple goals in like stoppage time, one of which from a corner because the ball gets delivered out to the edge of the box on the ground and to Palmer, and nobody steps out to do anything about it. And that's why he just put another goal in. So it was not great from a defensive standpoint. I thought Amos struggled a lot to handle a lot of those long balls as well. He was trying a little too hard. Didn't really know whether we wanted to keep control of it or whether he wanted to put it out. And that's something that everybody's been doing. I know we stress this build out, but you need to do your first job as a defender is just get rid of the ball, clear the danger. I thought Binder could have done better for that opening goal too. He kind of let it just go right by him. I'm starting to feel more and more like Binder. That performance against Arsenal in the Cup was a bit of a one-off because he's not really showing me much else. That like we just need to move on past that. Oh, let me see what you guys are saying here. Goal says Ugarte did the same move Pogba did at the club. Counterattack, breaks down, lose possession, concede a goal after 2-3 passes. United made ultras at the club. Yeah, it was more poor defending for that second goal as well. Ugarte, I thought, loses it way too easily in his own half. And then the part that frustrated me the most about that with Ugarte, he loses it and they go on a counter. And Ugarte he's just on his knees on the ground, like just absolutely dejected. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you could have at least got up. You could have made a lazy tackle and at least taken the yellow or something and brought him down. Like that right there is the complete lack of urgency that Amorim's talking about, the lack of mentality. And it's uncharacteristic for Ugarte. I don't know what was going on in that moment for him, but then the goal itself, I mean, everyone's ball watching. The ball gets all the way up to the byline, and then it's just a simple cutback and slotted home. It's a disgraceful goal to concede, and it's not the first time that we've conceded a goal like that. This season, it's definitely not the first time we've conceded a goal like that in the last 2 or 3 years. Goals like that, conceding goals like that are the reason we're not in Champions League, that we got knocked out last year. We've conceded a goal like that against Bayern, Galatasaray, everybody. That's just the kind of goals we concede. This team, they're just switched off. No one's paying attention. Everyone's ball watching. It's absolutely disgraceful. Rob says, why aren't the crowd booing these home performances? Let the players know it's not acceptable. I'm sure the players know that it's not acceptable. It's always a debate, right? To boo or not to boo. You've seen people booing Trent recently and whatnot, or what was another match that people were booing? And I think it's always hard. I think that I'm not one for booing players, individual players, or like Xerxes when he got subbed off a couple months back. I'm not a fan for booing the players. I think maybe a collective boo at like halftime or a collective boo, a whole full-time whistle. I think maybe to me that's a little more acceptable, but that doesn't mean that I encourage it or that I would do it, because I think at the end of the day it's always better to encourage than it is to kind of break down other people. I think you want to build people up if possible. You want these players to do better. You want these players to perform. And when you're booing them, you're doing the exact opposite. And so I get what you're saying. I do think the players in Amorim, they know, they can hear it, they see it on social media. We know that they engage with people on social media. They see what's happening. They're not dumb. They don't live in bubbles. They do read and watch things. So they know. And I know that they're professionals. You have to think that they're going to agree as well. But I don't know. That's just how I feel about booing. I don't know. Rob says the only positive was it was a sunny day. There were some positives about yesterday. We're going to talk about those a little bit when we tackle the news. So, Kai, big up, Kai. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Good to see you. Buck says Ahmad was lazy versus Brentford as well. I'm not going to go too hard on Ahmad quite yet, simply because he's just back from a pretty lengthy timeout for injury. So I'm sure that, he's going to take just a little bit of time. He played a lot yesterday. And like we said, he was kind of going from a 10-minute cameo to like a 20-minute, 25-minute cameo to like a full half. And now we're playing a little longer. So it's good to have him back. It's good to have him fit. And that doesn't mean he's 100% fit, but it'll take some time. Yes, as Kai says, please like the video. So Amorim finally made some changes, but then, the changes that he made are also what added to my frustration, because it was just the same tactic we've seen from him time and time again. Just stick Maguire in the box, spam crosses in there, try to get something on it. It felt like David Moyes is back in charge, man. It was just cross after cross after cross. And it felt again, I mean, you have to, and I know I've said that in the past, and then like I said that during the second leg against Lyon, like, oh, great. And then Harry Maguire nets the winner doing exactly that tactic. I get it. It can work, but the problem is it just doesn't fill me with any sort of confidence or any sort of inspiration. It doesn't scream to me like tactics or ideas. It's the lack thereof, in my opinion. That being said, I do feel like maybe had we were dialing up the pressure a little bit there. Maybe if we had another 10 minutes, we might have salvaged the point. But again, the problem again, similar to that cup match against Spurs that we got knocked out of, it was too little, too late. Gave ourselves too big of a mountain to climb because we didn't show up at the opening whistle. We just were switched off. We weren't doing what we needed to do. Nobody was kind of, it just looked like someone said, like, it looked like we were training a little bit like a friendly. Like we were just half speed, half assing. And it was that's not, I get the league is done, but it's just Amorim can't be happy because we went into this match saying like, no, we're going to push it. These players are playing for a final. Like we got to take it seriously, but it did not look like it. It literally looked like they were told like, don't overdo it. But again, it seems like Amorim's tactic in these moments is just to hoof it to Harry. And yeah, like I said, you could say that it's worked, and you're right, it has worked, but it is, again, so uninspiring. And again, it's the reason for it that frustrates me. You know, you don't do anything for 90 minutes, so we just resort to sticking Maguire in the box. That's just really poor all around. I thought Bruno was largely anonymous in this match, just didn't really seem to do anything. I'm not saying he was bad, he was just anonymous. Like he wasn't really getting as involved until late on in the second half when everybody was literally just like, well, I have a perfect opportunity to cross, but I'm just going to give it to Bruno instead. So again, I don't know if that's like someone that's what they're being told, or if that's just they're not confident in themselves to put a ball in the box or what. But it was really, really, really frustrating. Everyone was just forcing the ball to him. And it's really annoying to see. And then overall, it's just not enough progression, not enough impetus, not enough courage to progress the ball. A lot of the passing was just side to side, backwards. Even when we did get into the final third, it was just around the box. Nobody willing to kind of take charge in these moments. It's just annoying. I'm not going to go into individual stats and stuff this time, just because it feels like a waste of time, honestly. It's stupid. Let me see what you guys are getting involved in out here. Box says different years, different coaches, different players, different systems, same old problems year after year. Yeah, it's a mentality thing, man. I'm telling you, and it starts from the top. I'm hoping, because it's still the new recruitment has not been in here in a long time, and it will take time to kind of change a lot of this stuff for the better. But so I'm hoping that could have an impact, but we have not seen it yet. Unless you're talking Europa League, if we just pretend that we're not even in Premier League and we're in Europa League, then we'll see. We're like the best team in the world, right? Unbeaten into the final, boom. But unfortunately, we do have a league to compete in as well, and we have not competed. Rob says they don't need building up; they need to kick up the butt. Boo them for passive home performances. It's meant to be a fortress. No, I'm not excusing it. I guess it's just the difference in responding. I mean, it's not me saying anyone's right or wrong or whatever. I always just opt for like criticism, but support at the same time. I think a lot of people online, especially, just stop at the criticism. They stop at the insults. They stop at the abuse sometimes, a lot of people. And I think that, to me, I don't know. It's just different. Everyone's different. So you do what you got to do. Box says, yep, Ahmad is one of the key players. Yeah, Ahmad is definitely a difference maker, but it's sort of like Bruno. If he's not having a good day, then it like no one else is able to step up. Up until Ahmad returned, it was just Bruno. And now that he's here, he does help carry that weight. But again, what all that says is that no one else in the squad is capable of doing that. And that's a bigger problem than I think anything. Box says, Maguire doesn't score enough with the amount of chances he gets. Maguire's never been, contrary to this year, right? Like this season is a bit of an outlier season, but contrary to popular belief, Maguire is really not good on set pieces. At either ends of the pitch, honestly. He's missed so many clear chances at getting a header on. He puts most of them off target. If you go back and watch just the whole category of his heading opportunities, this year he's been better, but it's, comparatively speaking, over the larger sample size of his time at United, especially, it's really not good. He's not great on headers, honestly. But I don't think that his job, more often than not, on these set pieces is to score. If you notice, he usually takes up a position at the back post and he tries to head it back across the box so somebody else can come on who can get on the end of something. Sometimes he does put it on target. Sometimes he does go for himself, but more often than not, he's not actually getting anything on it. Kai says one problem is the only players that can put in a good ball in the box are Shaw and Eriksson, and both are past it. Shaw definitely can put a ball in the box. Eriksson, we don't have anybody who can put in a good corner, man. Eriksson's corners never beat the first man. Like Bruno really struggles to do that well. Like Shaw should probably be taking corners, in my opinion, because he's probably the best. Got the best delivery, I think, in the squad. Personally, I wish you could just have like a pinch hitter for set pieces. Just bring him on just to put the ball into the box. Shaw could be here for another 4 or 5 years if that's all he had to do. But I'm just like watching Eriksson. We're trying to get something, and Eriksson's like corner just fails to beat the first man, and I'm just like this. This is where he is. We have to rely on someone who's not even going to be here next year, who we know is not going to be here next year, to put on the like. That's so bad. Goals says someone once said Amorim was a coward, and I disagreed. But his caution with not using the academy when injuries ravaged and his panic in the selection once Scholes and Keane called him out is proof. I mean, what I'll say to that is correlation is not causation. So we can look at two things and that are somewhat linked and say they're connected, but it doesn't actually mean that. So saying it's proof is a bit of a stretch, in my opinion. I think that Amorim is really struggling right now to navigate that line of, not risking injury, but also like not wanting players to get rusty. He's got this pressure to also try to, get something from these matches and things. And I think that as a manager, he wants to win. He doesn't like he wants to lose. But again, it's about priorities. And right now, I think a lot of people, Keane and Scholes as well, because I love Keane and Scholes as players. They're legends. But some of their takes as pundits are just not great. They're just poor. They don't seem to understand context. They don't seem to realize, like, right now, we have to prioritize the Europa League. It just is what it is. And so they're just not willing to see it, because I think sometimes some of their comments have me thinking that they are still stuck in the 90s. They do still think this is 99. This is Man United. This is what we do. This is not acceptable. I get it. All of it's true. But again, this is the same thing about people with this rebuild. There's going to be so much more Amorim out talk next season, especially if we don't, get top 4 or something, because people aren't prepared to be patient and for a rebuild. Rebuilds are not overnight. Look at what Liverpool did, how long that took. Look at what Arsenal are still doing. Right? Arsenal haven't won anything under Arteta except for that one FA Cup with players that he didn't even sign. None of those players are his. Look at the rebuild under Arteta since he started getting his players in for his system. And cool, second a couple times, awesome, but second's not a trophy. And that's the problem. We've been to more finals in the last 5 years than Arsenal have, and this is supposed to be our banter season. We've won more trophies in the last 2 years than Arsenal have in the last 5 years under Arteta, and this is supposed to be our banter season. There are levels to this kind of stuff. And no, it's not acceptable for United to be where we are in the league. And yes, we want to be in the Champions League. We don't want to be playing Thursday night football. I get it. All this is true. But that's my point, is all of it can be true. It's not just always an either or. I don't think Amorim is a coward, Goals. I am a little frustrated that he's not using the youngsters a bit more, but we did start a lot of youngsters yesterday. Dorgu is still just 20. Amos is, obviously a youngster. Backup, Bayindir is in goal. He started as backup keeper. We rested Onana. The same thing Spurs did. Spurs rested Vicario too. So it's hard, because if you got players like Ahmad coming back from injury as well, we can't just rest him. I would like to see him get a little bit more rest, but it's hard. This is why I don't envy managers, because it's not an easy job. But I get the frustration. I really do. Like I said, I'm not going to bother looking into a lot of the stats and whatnot, because again, it's just, what is the point? This is why I don't like. I saw United, they put out all voting for player of the season, and I'm like, read the room, y'all. Seriously, I don't care about a player of the season at United right now. If this, people gave Ten Hag stick for canceling the staff dinner or the awards dinner. None of these players have shown that they deserve any awards. I would love it if we just vacated the Matt Busby Award for the year. That would be a good kick up the butt. Whoever's in there, I think that was Rob, or Goals. I can't remember. Sorry. That would be the way to show them, no, you guys don't deserve this. There's no way you deserve this. You can go get your golden boot in Europe. You can go get your MVP in the Europa League if you want. That's fine, but we're not doing awards dinners because nobody deserves it. And honestly, if I were one of the United players, I would be embarrassed to go to have an awards. I would be embarrassed to be named the Busby Player of the Year this season. I would give it back and say, you know what? I don't think any of us deserve this. I think we win as a team, we lose as a team, and that includes this award. We will vacate this till next season. The club's not going to do that because the club wants the engagement of the award show. But I think just the club just needs to read the room sometimes. It's a bit cringe with some of the things that happen. So continuing the goals with what you said, though, we will talk about this because it was one of my points. And that's my first point is risky Ruben. Again, like we just talked about, it is very, very difficult to manage minutes right now, considering context. Ahead of the final, we've got injuries, we've got fitness to try to work out, and you're trying to get players back fit. You don't want to risk them. Like Amorim said, many players are on that threshold right now for injury. They're in that red zone. But I do wonder, to your point, Goals, if Amorim maybe could have managed minutes a little better yesterday. And I'm not talking necessarily only about youngsters. I'm talking about how long some of these key players play, how many minutes they did play yesterday. Playing Højlund for a whole match was a risk, especially with Cheeto just chilling on the bench. And Cheeto's not even able to play in the final, so I don't get that at all. Why not get Cheeto some more minutes in the league, get him scoring, play him against Chelsea, play him against Villa? That's all you have to do. Mazraoui, Bruno, Ugarte, Kabi, Ahmad. I mean, it's a dice roll to play all of them for so long. And I didn't have a problem necessarily starting them, but why did they have to play the whole match, right? And then to really hammer the point home, Yoro had to be taken off early in the second half with some sort of non-contact foot issue, which is a big worry. And non-contact stuff is always a big, big worry for any player. We saw that with Liche when he pulled up with his ACL, non-contact, just running. So I don't blame Amorim for players' injuries. Now, again, correlation is not causation. I'm not saying Amorim started Yoro, played him into the second half, and he got injured, so it's Amorim's fault. I don't blame players for injuries either. But again, it's a dice roll. It is the risk. And unfortunately, Amorim's hands are tied with some situations, but they aren't in others. We had Fredrickson and Lindelof both on the bench. I don't know why we bring on Maguire ahead of them when Maguire is by far one of the better players. It just doesn't make sense sometimes. But again, that's just my perspective. It doesn't mean I think I'm right or wrong in that regard. This is just my thoughts on it. But again, it begs the question. You could also ask, would it have been better to start Lindelof in the first place? Again, you never know. Hindsight's 2020. Let's just hope that with Yoro, it's not a re-aggravation of the injury that kept him out for so long to start the season. If so, then it is a bit of a red flag, more so in the injury itself. Could it be something that's going to cause several problems over the next few years? He's a young player. The injury that he got, that was contact, but now if it's a complication, then it worries. An argument also could be made, though, that that the risk itself was not worth it, because if he misses the final, then I'm sure Amorim is going to feel pretty responsible for that as well. This is a hard situation to be in. But the good news with that, though, I saw yesterday that apparently Yoro, he left the stadium not in crutches, not in a boot. He's limping, but it looked like, and Amorim himself said he thinks it's a small thing, but we don't know. I was checking today to see if we got any updates. I did not see any updates, so we will be sweating on that. So, what is Dark Crow saying? What do we got, Dark Crow? Ugarte officially a flop signing based on one match because of one mistake. Were you not watching like the first half when he was an excellent at dropping deep, collecting the ball? Did you not see his drop of the shoulder to leave Kudus in the dust and create nothing but space for himself to drop? Yeah, we've already criticized. I mean, if you just joined, but you would have seen me, I did criticize him for losing the ball a little too easily and then just sitting on his knees. That's a big no-no, like not acceptable, but it doesn't mean he's a flop because of one game. Ugarte's been one of our better players in the last several weeks, and he's a key player for us right now. He's going to make mistakes, and that's just part of it, but he's not a flop. I would definitely not call him a flop at all. I think that's a bit harsh. Goal says, I think ex-players like Keane and Scholes refused to drink the Amorim Kool-Aid after going hard on Eric Ten Hag, but warming up to him at the end, they try to uphold standards. Yeah, nothing wrong with upholding standards, but I think that you have to have context, and the context in this conversation and with regarding some of the ex-pros is just where we are right now. We're doing a rebuild. A lot of the delay in this is because of what's happened over the last decade in terms of just stupid decisions, sacking managers, no plan, all that stuff, the debt, all of it. Amorim comes in mid-season. PSR, like nobody's like, they're just completely disregarding PSR, and their whole plan, the whole thing that they've been saying is Amorim just needs to switch to a back four. Like that's literally Amorim's already said he's not going to do it. There are many reasons why he's not going to do it. You can go either way. What you want to do in that situation? Do you think he should? Do you not? We've already had that discussion, but I do think that they need to be just a little bit more, have a little bit more context regarding everything, and just realize, listen, this isn't Manchester United of 1999 right now. We're nowhere near that, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and it's not going to change overnight. And it's not just on Amorim. The players have blood on their hands as well, but it's really annoying. But yeah, you have to have standards. I just think it's not enough to just have that standard be, this is Manchester United. Like, okay, well, do you have anything else for me kind of thing? Because that's not really helpful. RSV, big up, man. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful Michigan day. It's going to be a hot one. Shaw is actually stealing a living. What a disgraceful coward he is, downing tools and leeching the club of its resources and preventing it from progressing forward. I'm going to need to see some sort of substantial evidence that Shaw is downing tools. If you're talking about the injuries, again, it's unfortunate, and you guys know how I feel about Shaw and even Mount to an extent. I think that if it were possible to move them on, we should do so because they can't be relied upon to stay fit. But no player wants to be injured. What is he going to do? Just say, you know what, I'm injured. You guys don't have to pay me anymore. I'll quit. I will no longer take money and earn a living. Like, it's just, no player's going to do that. I think people that ask players to do that are just being hypocrites because nobody would do that in their job. RSV, if you went to work tomorrow and you got injured doing your job at your job, what would you expect to happen? Like, if it was a long-term injury, would you just quit and expect to not take payment? Or would you be like, no, I got injured doing my job at my job. And, you know, that's why we have workers' comp. So that's just part of it. I don't know. The whole people getting mad at injured players and stuff and telling them, like, saying that they're like stealing a living is a bit of a joke, personally. Archie's, I'm glad Amorim is calling out the major problems. A lot of this fan base is still player FC. I think again, and we're getting to this like tail end of, 10 to 12 years of players really, like, our fans really just fed up. And I think Amorim just kind of joined at like the worst of it. Like, this has been a collective, and you already started seeing it with Ten Hag. Amorim's kind of jumped right in the worst of it right now. And I think that he's kind of catching strays right now with all the other negativity right now. And I think that like you're right, when it is, a lot of it is the fans. They believe anything negative, anything positive is always just, they call it PR and stuff. And I think that the fans don't help themselves. The media definitely just filter what they want. Robert, welcome, man. Said I had my daughter's dance recital, wedding anniversary, and handled Mother's Day, and the one little escape I had, United effed it up. Honestly, was everybody like expecting a big win though? But I wasn't. Like I said, we're going through the match right now. We're going to dive into the news after this, but like, I'm more upset about a lot of the other stuff than the match. I'm more upset with the players, how hesitant they were. I'm really upset with Yoro's injury. I'm really upset that we played a lot of these starters for so long. I would like to see Cheeto start, for instance. Bruno probably needs to get a rest. I'm sure we're going to see Ugarte rested and Casemiro starting maybe. But the final is going to be interesting. Raja says, hi, what up? Big up, Raja. RSV says, Shaw did down tools, though, after coming back from injury. He also down tools under Mourinho, Ollie, Ragnick, and Eric Ten Hag once things stopped going towards his way. We were down. I mean, you got to, you had to show me some proof. Like, how did he down tools? Because we can't just keep saying it. You can't say he down tools because he down tools. That's kind of internally inconsistent. Goal says the rebuild started 2 years ago when we let academy players go and up to 10 first team players leave. We bought 4 or 5 players last year. The rebuild is ongoing. Well, rebuild and rebuild are different. Like if that makes sense, it's rebuild. Like the Glazers and co maybe tried to start a rebuild, but again, then do we trust anything? I'm talking about under this new regime. When I say rebuild, it's not. It's I wouldn't even really say it if Amorim had been hired and it was still like just the Glazers and Ed Woodward. I would still be hesitant to call that a rebuild because we've seen that movie before, right? But this is a whole new team in charge. I'm not saying that means everything's going to be great. I'm saying it's all new, and so we have to see how that goes. Oh, Kai says, what's your take on Mainu? Do you believe that he'll come good or is just overhyped? I would sell him. Well, you guys let us know what your view on Mainu. My view on Mainu is literally he's been playing first team football for just over a year. Because remember, he was injured to start last season. He didn't start playing until like November, I think. So he's literally been playing first team football for just over a year. And then he picked up a couple of other injuries this season as well. So I would say with Mainu, jury's out. Now he's young enough that he can still, I think he's bulking up a bit. I think he can play the system. I think it's just a matter of figuring out where he fits. And we're going to get to that point a little later on. But jury's out on Mainu simply because he's literally been playing for a year. So I think it's too early to call him overhyped personally. It's just too early. You never know. Like we could say the same thing about Ahmad in some ways, because I mean, he's only been playing here for a little over a year. So I don't know. We're going to see what happens. It's really up to Amorim. Does he see him as part of his plans or not? It's really not up to me, but I'd say the jury's still out for me on Mainu because he's not been playing that long. Roger says, not much improvement at all here. What is freaking going on with Man United? Yeah, welcome to the party, man. Roger says, I wasn't upset we lost. I was more pissed with the effort. They clearly did not go 100%. Yeah, and that's what I was saying to start. Like, were they told not to go 100%? Because that's what it kind of looked like to me. But at the same time, you're told not to go 100%, but then you're playing a lot of these players for the full 90 and stuff. So it just, to me, those two things seem contradictory. Like, don't go 100, but we're going to run you for 90 minutes. Like, I feel like more changes should have been done. But RSV says, Ten Hag hindered our rebuild and progression by refusing to work with Rangnick. Yeah, that was a big strike against Ten Hag for me. He was not wanting to work with Rangnick. And allowing the board to extend Rashford, Shaw, and Dallow's contracts by demanding the board to sign Højlund, Mount, and Onana. Yeah, I think the Mount thing to me seems more like a Glazernomics kind of thing. I'm not saying it is or not. It's just that one is so weird to me. Højlund, I mean, the club wanted Højlund. The club wasn't going to pay much for Højlund. They didn't want to pay more than 60, and then they're just, again, poor recruitment. Poor negotiating saw us pay more than what we needed to pay for Højlund. And you got to remember, too, again, context, RSV, Højlund wasn't supposed to be our only striker. He was 20 years old. 20-year-old is not supposed to be your only striker. It's just because we're so bad at transfers that we missed out. We needed another striker. We needed an older striker. There's no long-term plan at this club, or at least there hasn't been for 12 years now. Højlund should have been the younger rotation option to come in and work with someone older, kind of like Brighton when they had Welbeck, and then they had Evan Ferguson when he was very young coming through. That should have been. Højlund is still our only striker now, 2 years later, and it's just, you can't do that. And that's so bad. If he gets injured, there's no one else to take over for him right now, except for Cheeto, who is literally another player who shouldn't be your starting striker at United right now. But this is where we're at right now. Again, we showed that bench earlier. Like, the bench was super light in the attack. We had literally Garnacho and Cheeto. Robert says Shaw is not what he was. The man had a huge injury after that leg break. He has never been able to complete a season. Well, spoiler alert, next season of What If. So make of that what you will. Don't forget the next season will probably drop once this season ends. So keep a lookout. I got a lot of fun episodes, but yeah, spoiler alert there, because there is a big what if. That injury really put Shaw. You remember when he came back from that, he was so hesitant to kind of get too close to the opposition, especially when he had the ball. He was kind of pulling out of things. He was not wanting to to run forward a lot. I think he was really afraid of getting tackled again for the longest time. But 22-23 Shaw was a different animal. RSV says, I do not ever want to hear anything positive about Erik ten Hag. I mean, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. He is massively responsible for the diabolical state. He shares a portion of it, yes, because his talent identification was very, very poor in some regards. But you cannot, that just completely lets the Glazers off the hook, man. It's the Glazers that are the problem, man. Ed Woodwards, the John Murray, Richard Arnold, all these guys. RSV says, Amorim really did inherit a massive pile of crap created by both Erik ten Hag, who had the ultimate say on transfers. Yeah, the ten Hag thing, getting rid of Ragnick was really weird. That was just so weird. Remember, yeah, and I think people were confusing. So remember, ten Hag said he didn't delete, like, it wasn't his target. That was a club target. It just happened to be a coincidence that it was a former ten Hag player. I think we still would have gone for Delit even if ten Hag were not here in the summer, for instance. So little things like that, the media likes to spin a little bit. But yeah, ten Hag, I think that didn't help himself. I didn't think ten Hag has started to feel like maybe he didn't quite have the personality that was a good fit maybe for their modern game. He does seem a little old school. But some of these things you live and learn, you figure it out. So it is what it is. I'm not going to talk too much about ten Hag because he's not here anymore. But Goal says Manu should be sold for anything over 40 mil. His decline is crazy. He doesn't fit the system and is distracted by payday negotiations. Body language resembles Rashford sometimes. Manu, he looked really good when he played as a 10 the other day. He sort of looks like he struggles a bit in this system. I think maybe he was told he's got to get a little bit more physical if he wants to play in that system. Because remember, he came back from that injury and he looked like he'd put on like 20 pounds of muscle. He looks taller. He looks bigger. And maybe he just needs to kind of figure out how to play that more on and off the ball. He struggled early in this season too because ten Hag was kind of, if you remember, ten Hag was forcing him to sit a little deeper, played a little bit more defensively than he was last season. So maybe they see him more as a deeper role. I don't know. Again, it's not up to me. This is why I always look at the system before I look at player, because you can take a great player. They don't fit the system. They're not going to work. It just is what it is. Unfortunately. Raja said, Cheeto, not good. Uh-oh. Shots fired. What makes you think Cheeto's not good? He's like a 17-year-old kid. He's played a couple of matches. Let me know why you're saying that. Raja says, Manu not 10, not quick, not agile, no pace. I mean, Yaya Toure wasn't the quickest, and he was excellent box-to-box. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne is not the fastest guy. He's one of the better attacking midfielders, and he kind of moved to a deeper role as he got a little older. You're never going to hear me say that pace is the most important. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like, Manu, I think, has shown that when he's played as a 10, and a lot of his goal involvements and a lot of the things that he does have all happened to be from that kind of more advanced edge of the box kind of role. A lot of movement, a lot of quick link up in that regard. But again, it's kind of up to Amorim to see where he sees Manu playing. I don't know. I think you're right in the sense I don't know if he can hang in that pivot in this system because it does demand a lot of physicality. And I don't know if Manu's got those legs for that. But as a 10, depending on just the situation, because he doesn't have to be a 10 like how Garnacho plays a 10, where he's wide, he's getting chalk on his boots, all that stuff. I think that in those channels where he's able to receive the ball, where he's able to turn, because Manu is very good on the ball. He's very press resistant as well. But again, it's just about the player next to him. Is the striker reading that situation well, or is the pivot behind him doing what it needs to do to get in the ball, to put it in a good spot for him? There's so many things that all have to kind of fall into place sometimes, and it's just all kind of going sideways for us at the moment. I'll move on to my next point here, guys, because we still got to go through the news too. Number 2, goals change games. It may be a cliche, it may be just an overused saying, but it is true, right? There's a reason it's a cliche. Goals change games. We were dominant. We were controlling things right up until that moment where a bit of standing off and ball watching basically lays down a red carpet into our box and gifts West Ham that opener. And then the entire game changes. Remember, we already showed you those screenshots of Wan-Bissaka literally having like 10 yards of space for the entirety of that moment. He was able to take the ball from the touch line all the way just outside our box, and nobody even stepping to him until it was way too late. So that was not a great example of how to defend. If you guys have children and they're playing defense, just show them that clip and tell them everything that happened there. Just don't do that. But again, up until that moment, we were already a bit ponderous, a bit hesitant in the final third. But conceding a goal that, in the manner that we did, just conceding that goal really kind of tipped things over the edge. Like I said, this is why I feel like the players were kind of told, like, don't overdo it, because it already looked like we weren't trying to push it too much. And that goal I kind of saw a ripple effect. It was just like everyone just kind of just switched off. Amorim pretty much said the same thing. This is what he said after. He said, it's been a complicated season, but that shouldn't be an excuse. Losing at home again when we had more chances than our opponents. We have to score when we have the chance. Sometimes one goal can change the game. And he's absolutely right. It's all about momentum. And I think that it's just, we were on the ascendancy, and then just one little error, one little moment, and everything changes. It didn't help either that, again, like literally every other side we've played this season in the league, West Ham were just more physical than us. But again, who's not these days? We were very passive. We were very reactive. We were just kind of waiting for things to happen. Second best in a lot of ways. But again, story of the season. Sorry, computer's doing a madness here. Goal said Wheatley looks better than Cheeto now, but both are not ready for Premiership, but may need Belgium or Eredivisie loans or Division 1 or 2, as Championship is too physical for them. Well, I mean, Wheatley's been playing a little longer. Remember, Wheatley he played for us a little bit last year. He was out on loan. I think it was at Walsall, I believe, and then he came back. So I think he's older too. So I think people need to keep age in mind when they look at players, and then they also need to keep experience in mind, because like 20-year-old is not necessarily the same 20-year-old. You like look at Garnacho, he's 20, but this is his third season of first team football. It's just, there are contexts. So Composed View, welcome back. You guys are having a little chat. I'll let you guys do your chat. Let me move on to number 3 here. Big question I had coming off this, though, is who plays in the final. So in his pre-match presser, Amorim stated that the players would be playing for a spot in the final next Wednesday. Remember, it is next Wednesday at 2 o'clock for some weird reason. If today was an audition for that, though, I think many of these players failed. I don't think we'll be seeing Shaw start a final anytime soon. There's a question mark. If I guarantee you, if Cheeto were able to play in Europe, there might be a question mark over Højlund right now, because it wasn't great. But did anybody do enough to make you say, oh, yeah, he'll be in the final for sure, he's starting? Based on yesterday, not for me, nobody. I think Ugarte and Ahmad had really good first halves, but the game was 90 minutes. And again, like I said, everybody dropped the level after that first goal went in. Again, it was like they were too afraid of making a mistake. They were too afraid of losing the ball that nobody wanted to take a chance. It's just, we're so bad right now, and the players are not doing themselves any favors when it comes to not only who plays in the final, but maybe who we push a little harder to keep over the summer. Because right now, like, people are already talking about Mainu going, like Garnacho could be gone. Like, people are trying to say that, someone like Ugarte is a flop. I mean, it's just, these players are not doing themselves any favors. We're literally a free hit for every side right now. We're literally just gifting 3 points. Like, it's barring like Leicester, we are like the easiest team in the league to beat right now. How many teams have done the double over us right now? So now that makes it a double for, did West Ham do the double? Or maybe it was Brenda before that did the double. That's like 5, 6, 7 teams are just like, yep, that's 3 points. Moving on. Wolves can't buy a point, but of course they beat us. West Ham have been the same. They can't buy a point right now, but of course they beat us. So it's freaking embarrassing, man. Compose says, I'll start Yoro. If he's fit, that's the big question mark, right? It's got to be fit. Afterward, Amorim had a lot to say, as he usually does. He made quite a few bold, absolute kind of statements, I thought. Much of what he had to say, though, referred to kind of where we're at right now in the table, in our rebuild and whatnot, and kind of what we can expect from a lot of that. So I got to add this. Here we go. So if you look at like, you guys can kind of read along with me if you guys are doing this. So he's kind of, oops, shit. There we go. This mouse is so sensitive. So he's kind of asked a little bit about just Leny Yoro. We don't have any updates on Leny Yoro. We still don't have any. Let me make sure you guys that's going to good for you. Yeah, that's going to good. So he's talking about the overall performances, and he's kind of frustrated again. He says we create more chances, but we had a lack of urgency. We were near the box, lack of urgency. We need to be more aggressive. If you cannot score in the first ball and the second ball, if you cross the ball, if we are more aggressive, we had a lack of pace. We have to do much better. The biggest concern, he says, this is the part that stuck out to me. The biggest concern is that feeling that it's okay. We cannot change our position so much, so it's okay. So he's basically saying like that they're just the biggest concern is that the players are like, well, the table doesn't really matter, the league doesn't matter, so that's fine. It is what it is. Again, he said the word urgency like 37 times in this presser, but he says that is the biggest problem in our club at the moment is that we are losing the feeling of we are a massive club, and that it's the end of the world to lose a game at home. So I think it's the biggest concern in our club. And so on someone's point earlier, they were talking about standards. Amorim, again, he's saying he understands. It's not like Amorim is going out there and telling the players, like, don't take shots, lose the ball in the first, like nobody pressed to someone when they got the ball. It's not like he's telling them that. But he's worried that maybe that's a mentality issue in the players right now. He's embarrassed, he says. Are we supposed to feel a manager of Manchester United in that position embarrassed? It's hard to accept being 17th in the table, 16th right now. But he says, I think everybody has to think seriously about a lot of things here. Everybody is thinking about the final. The final is not the issue in this moment in our club. We have bigger things to think about. And we have to change a lot of things at the end of the season. It's really, it's frustrating. I know you guys are frustrated. I'm frustrated. I get what he's saying, and I do agree that losing, especially at home, needs to hit us harder than it seems to have hit us in these last couple of years. I think we've just, maybe it's because we're so used to it, we kind of don't get it. Maybe I'm a part of it because I've said to start the stream, like I kind of expected it. I'm not bothered about the loss. Maybe I do need to be more bothered about the loss. And if so, then I'm willing to say, okay, maybe I'm contributing to that in some way. And I get that. I think maybe to me, it's less about not being bothered about the loss and me being more concerned about the final. But we are not back yet. It's going to take a while for us to unravel a lot of this. So it's, yeah. Let me see what else he's got to say. So he's not going to talk about specific players. When he's talking about Ugarte losing possession, he says, we'll try to address that. It has to be with the lack of urgency to defend the box and attack the box. Talking generally, though, is there a cultural issue? He said, yeah, I think it's not. It's the feeling. He says he's not going to talk about culture, but the feeling is the most dangerous feeling that we have in a big club. Urgency, yeah. He's talking about urgency. Like, so he says see all these games in the Premier League, sometimes we're not focused and we don't have that feeling that we need to go and win to the next stage like we have in the Europa League. So it's something that is mentally wrong in our team. So is he sort of hinting here that maybe the players have kind of given up on the league and are only turning up for Europa League matches? Performances, results, I mean, they kind of lend to that mentality, right? Our difference is night and day with the way we play in the league versus the way we play in Europe. We lose a few league games. I mean, the problem is it's kind of like, if that's the case, then it's a problem of like this like cyclical self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like we lose a few league games, we drop down the table. So then these players stop trying hard and show up for the Europa League because that's a trophy we can still win. But like I said, last week when it comes to like hoofing and hoping, or the reason that we're in the Europa League and we're focusing on that is we're in that because of that mindset that we've switched off. You know, we've switched off and we've switched off more because it's causing itself. It's just this back and forth thing. It's so intertwined. Like it's switched off within a switched off within a switched off. It's like shitception out here, man. I need a thought map for the absolute shit show that we are this season. I can't keep it all straight. And then he was asked, someone made a comment, it looks like the players are picking and choosing which games to play in. He says, it's hard to explain that. We need that feeling. I have that feeling that there's that lack of urgency in everything we do. Literally urgency. Like how many times has he said that? How many times have we discussed that on the channel? We need better players, yes, from a technical standpoint, right? But I think that we also need players that are there. We need mentality. We need players that show fight. We need players. I'm going to take this off the screen. Sorry. Let me switch back here. Sensitive mouse. Sorry. So we got no mentality. We've got no fight. There's no leadership, no initiative, no aggression. We need better players from a technical standpoint, like I said, but we need fighters. We need leaders. We need players who take charge in all these situations. Like Amorim's talking about lack of urgency. No one's attacking the ball in the box. Like, where's the mentality? Are we only showing up for Europa League because maybe there's this mindset that it's winnable, we can't change position? Like, that is a mentality that needs to change. We need to have players that are not just sitting there allowing things to happen around them. We need players who are going to try to impose their will on games, on opponents, on situations, on the league, on the tournaments that we're in. This is how you can get players who can perform in any system too. This is why you need to get players. It's to me, it's not enough to just look at players and say, okay, in this system, can they play this? We need players who have the ability, the technicality, the physicality, the mindset to suit almost any system, who are going to say, okay, whatever, what you need from me, I'm going to go in and do that. For any manager, this is how you build. Let me get caught up with you guys here, because y'all are having a chat. So Kai says, would you start with Mount and then like the 60th minute change him for Garnacho? You're talking about the final. It really depends on who you think is the stronger of the two, right? Because I always opt for starting strong in building up a lead, and then so you're not having to chase it. So is Mount better than Garnacho? I think on a given day, maybe one or the other does better. Just who's going to show up? Because Mount showed the other day, obviously, against Bilbao, that he can do a great job. But Garnacho has also shown that he can impact the game as well. It's very interesting. Goals is not happy with Amorim. Said at press conferences and interviews equate position on the table. Amorim would be 10 points clear at the top based on how fans dissect and praise his interviews. Who's praising the interviews? I'm just reading them, man. Just reading what he's saying and asking for you guys' thoughts. Composed View says, I don't think we will beat Spurs. I think the players will get overwhelmed by their pressing and make mistakes that will lead to our loss. So remember, I think the first match we played against Spurs where we got absolutely turned over was with Ten Hag. And under Amorim, it was a very rotated side in the Carabao Cup. And I think that was probably still pretty early in Amorim's. I'm hoping now with players that are getting back fit, that with some more time on the training pitch that Amorim's had, and maybe, yeah, to an extent without, it's the final. So I'm hoping these players can. We've seen that in Europe, we're a different animal. The problem is that it's an English team now we're facing. And so does that negate, does that make it a wash this final? I don't know, man. Yeah, but goals, yeah. I mean, Amorim has already kind of complained. And one of the first things he did when he got here was kind of make a remark about how many interviews he has to do and how different that is to Portugal. I don't think he likes it very much personally. Amorim also had something else to say that was pretty interesting. It's a long one. So he talks about a lot of these changes. He admitted he shares a big role. He says, I'm talking about myself, the culture in the club, the culture in the team. I have that feeling we need to change that, and we need to be really strong in the summer and to be brave, because we will not have a next season like this if we start like this. Or if the feeling is still here, we should give the space to different persons. Like, he kind of like made a motion towards like where he's sitting and stuff. And so it's interesting. What do you guys make of that? That's kind of the big quote that's doing a lot of the rounds this morning. Gotta get a drink. It's dry in here. Or if the feeling is still here, we should give the space to different persons. So you talking about the team? Is he talking about himself? A little bit of both. What do you guys make of that? Let me know in the chat here. What does Goal say? Goal says physicality, mentality, ability, availability should be the 4 issues recruitment should consider before even considering fees and other stats for new players. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. It's hard to know what to prioritize. Like, I think maybe just the recency bias is like, I don't want any players that are injury prone. I would like a bit of that strong mentality, like you're saying, right? Players who just fight, players who are physical. I don't just need big, fast, strong players, but players who have the legs, who have stamina, who have energy, who aren't going to go missing and stuff. Players who won't pull out of 50-50s and whatnot. Rashford. Composed View says we need a new spine. That's what I go for this summer. We need so much, and that's where it's become about priorities, because we don't have the money to do all of it. We have to prioritize. It's just the way it is. It's just where we are right now. Hopefully, we can get a few big players out of here for some money, like Rashford, like Anthony, like Sancho. We'll get money from Malacia, maybe. We're going to be freeing up some space in the wages, so that could help. But anyway you slice it, the league has been garbage this season. We've lost 17 league games this season, literally 17 league games, the most defeats we've had in the league since the 70s, literally for like 50 years. We are in 16th now. The best we can get at the end of the season is 13th, and that's only if we win both these matches remaining. Chelsea, who will be without Nicholas Jackson because he picked up a second yellow. Did he get a straight red? Yeah, he got a straight red. So his season in the league is done. He can only play in the Conference League final for them. So Nicholas Jackson is done. Rashford's injured. Tielemans is injured for Aston Villa, so we could see them a little weaker. But that hasn't stopped the Amorim out crowd from just getting out in full force. I've literally already seen people state that they would want us to lose the final if it meant that Amorim got sacked. Oh, it started, guys. It's absolutely started. Oh man, this is the modern fan for you, hoping that we lose because it gets managers sacked. I've seen content creators doing this. I'm not going to put out any names. If you guys watch a lot of content, you'll figure out who it is probably. People who literally celebrate when we concede a goal because it means that a manager gets sacked. The problem is that these content creators have been doing this for the last 2 or 3, 4 managers. Like, at what point do you look at yourself and maybe change your mentality? These people are just negative. These are the kind of people who show up for a first date and spend the whole time talking about all the stuff they can't stand, all the stuff they hate. I hate when people do this. Oh, I can't stand that. How about just lend a little positivity to your life? It's really not that hard. I just don't get it. But still, I think it's a fair argument to challenge and say, should Amorim be doing better with these players? Can any manager do better with these players? We've sacked managers who couldn't do very well with the players. These are the same players that a lot of people have been slagging off for years. You guys are already again going in on Shaw, but I don't know how we can slag a lot of them off and then demand that a manager do better with them. Like, how do you do both? I mean, I don't get that. He's in a European final. He's unbeaten in Europe, so he has that going for him. He's got to find a way though to get some physicality in the squad, to get these players to just switch on, show a little bit more urgency, a little bit more initiative, a little bit more aggression in the league, because that's your bread and butter. This is why I've always said that the league, to me, is winning the league is definitely more of a feat than winning Champions League, because you have to play 38 matches week in, week out. You have to play everybody twice. You can win a Champions League. You can get all the way to the Champions League final without ever having to play any of the best teams in the competition. Like, that's just based on the draw. You're in the league phase of the Champions League and the Europa League. You don't even have to play everybody in the league phase now. I'm not saying it's not a good thing to get. It's not a worthwhile trophy, because it is, but the league is your bread and butter. The league is about endurance. It's about stamina. It's about just finding that extra something mentally, emotionally, to push yourselves through that, to slow down and drag your team through it, especially this time of the year. How many times in the season have we seen this April, May? How many times have we seen teams just literally kill their chances, or it's a make or break time of the year? How many times have Arsenal gotten to this point of the season in the last couple of years and just completely fallen off a cliff? This is the final lap. This is where the league is won or lost for a lot of times. So obviously this league this year is already won, but you get what I'm saying, right? And that's where we got to figure it out. But a lot of that is down to the players as well. This is part of managing and coaching, though, getting more from your players. That is a part of it. So I see both sides. I'm not saying it's a right or wrong. I think that it's a little bit of everything, right? But this is that age-old battle. Back the manager, or should he do more with the players? Perhaps Amram might have picked up a few more points if he'd maybe switched to a back four, but our rebuild would be delayed and the system wouldn't have been implemented right away. That's just where, and that's the thing that people have been going back and forth with all season. Do what you need done. I mean, Ten Hag got criticized for that his first season for switching back to a counterattack and stuff, and then people decided that his system just didn't work. But Amram did pretty much tell us that this was going to happen. If you guys remember very early on what he said to us, he said we have two ways: forget this new idea and try to cope, and next year we'll be here with the same problems, or we start now, risk and suffer a little bit, and we'll be better in the next year. Remember, this is after his very first match as United manager, which was against Ipswich. He said this. So he's told us this was going to happen. I don't think that we thought it would be this bad, but he literally told us, like, I know that what I'm doing, like, it's going to get better, but we have to start early. Ricardo Diaz, who jumps on the channel all the time in the live chat, a sporting fan, has told us it's going to be bad the first season, but it will get better. That's just that's what happened at Sporting. Sporting's first season at Amram wasn't anything to write home about. He got out a couple of the players that really didn't suit. He started building, and it got better and better. He's been Sporting's probably best manager a very long time. And we hope that it can do the same. I think people just need to ride the storm out a little bit. Amram isn't blameless in the slightest. I've criticized him many times in the channel for various different things. But these players also share a lot of that as well. I think a fair few players in this squad are absolute bluffers. I think they do flatter to deceive a lot of times. I think that we've seen some of these players end up just opting out, like Rashford, for instance. Not going to go into too much on the injured players because they're injured. It is what it is. But I do think some of these players don't have the mentality for the league. They don't have the mentality for Manchester United. I think that Onana on many times has shown that he can very easily be shaken by a mistake, by the magnitude of the occasion, whether that's on Champions League or something. It's very, very frustrating. I think that we've talked about the lack of resilience on this channel many, many times. We talk about that lack of mentality. Amram is talking about it right now. So if we're talking about someone I mentioned earlier, these players need a kick. I mean, I hope that maybe some of these press conferences and some of what Amram have said this year have served in that regard, calling us the worst team in United's history, saying that there's no urgency. But again, the system is also not responsible for players missing sitters or not clearing the danger. So the system is working in some regards. The system maybe is struggling in others. I think a lot of that has to do with personnel. And some of that isn't just mentality. Some of that is just technical ability. Building out from the back even under Ten Hag has shown that we don't have players that can do that. We have one defender who's really good at it, and he's injured until next fall. So at least Palace did us a favor, right? But Spurs heavily rotated. Vicario was on the bench. Clearly, Postecoglou was prioritizing the final as well. Funny, though, that both of us lost 2-0 at home this weekend. But again, like someone said, Spurs do have the physicality and the energy to turn us over if we don't show up, if we show up slow, if we're not switched on like we have been. But you guys let me know. I'm not going to go do man of the match or any of that crap because it was not a good match. Let's dive into some transfer news. Got the bad out of the way, you guys. Hopefully you guys are still here. Hopefully you guys are still hanging about, enjoying the chat. Goal says, if United go for Delap, it's I rest my case. United is not a kindergarten for wannabe baby strikers. We need a world-class striker who would stroll into Juve, Barcelona, Madrid, and Bayern. Yeah, it's one. And even Giggs was on, he met with like Webby O'Neill, their channel, and he even said, like, we've got one striker. Like that's never happened at United. We used to have 4 strikers. We had like 2 strikers. One striker, and he's young. We got Højlund when he was 20. I do agree to an extent. Delap is also young, and he's not quite the finished article by any means. But Goal says United should hire a striker coach next season and fire the wrestling coaches, Rasmus. Well, if you notice, he's been working on that a little bit. I think if you watch the match again yesterday and you watch it with a little less of that, if you take some of the rate, some of the emotion out of you watch Højlund, his hold-up play is actually very, very good. It's getting better. And the refs are actually calling fouls now against him, which they weren't doing for the longest time. I mean, he literally like got his shoulder like ripped out of the socket yesterday. Wasn't even called. So that's cool. But they did get a couple calls against us finally. And that's been a problem too, is the refs are letting a lot of that stuff go. But let's move on to some news. Want to talk about some of the good news today, starting with big up congrats to United women's keeper Fallon Tullis-Joyce, who was the joint Golden Glove winner in the Women's Super League. She shares that award with Chelsea's keeper Hannah Hampton. But congrats, Fallon, for winning that. She's an excellent keeper. Uncharacteristic error this weekend in that loss, but she overall has been just an outstanding. Really stepped up since Mary Earps left and really doing an excellent job in the women's team right now. We saw a lot of players leave the women's team recently, and it's been great to see them kind of work hard. They're back in the Champions League next year, so it's good for them. But adding on to that, United have officially added Cheeto and Fredrickson to the first team. If you look at their website, they're both now included in the first team, so they're officially part of that squad moving forward. And then big up Bendito Montato for his England call-up for the under-17 Euros this summer. So nice to see some good news after that crap we saw yesterday. Transfer news, because that's what everyone wants to talk about. So let's start with Bruno, because it is going to be a bit of a saga, I think, until somebody on either side comes out and says something with any sort of definitive assertion. So this is coming from Ryan Taylor with the Daily Mirror. He claims that Al Hilal are planning a third and final meeting with Bruno's representatives. While a 3-year contract was presented to Bruno last week on Monday, it was reportedly rejected. United insists we don't want to sell. I think that everybody's got a price. Al Hilal are willing to show some flexibility, apparently, when it comes to personal terms, like just salary and stuff. They're trying to get Bruno interested. I think it sounds like, if this is true, if they can get Bruno interested, then I think that they think that kind of gets a foot in the door. If all this is true, though, I think Al Hilal clearly want a big star, because they're throwing a lot of this money was originally earmarked for Mo Salah. That's who they wanted. Obviously, he's going to be at Liverpool for the next couple of years now. So they switched their focus to Bruno. I did read another report that they could turn to another Bruno if they don't get our Bruno, and that's Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle. If they're not able to tempt Bruno into going, then they're going to get other Bruno. This is all ridiculous. Today, just this morning, too, Ben Jacobs had more to say on this. He said that Al Hilal are still in touch with Bruno Fernandes's camp. There will be a new meeting this week, and Bruno will be given just 1 week. So basically, they're giving him an ultimatum, which you guys know I don't ever like. But apparently, the club is going to be giving Bruno a week to give a final answer, because Al Hilal want to line up their business before the Club World Cup. I think they're a part of that. I got people out here trying to tell me the Club World Cup is a serious competition. First and foremost, you could throw as much money as you want at something like this. It doesn't make it a competitive competition. I'm sure the owners would love to get a piece of that money, but you got teams, you've got clubs in there from Tunisia, you've got clubs in there from Australia, you've got clubs from the Saudi League, you've got clubs from the MLS, you've got like Bayern in there mixed in with all that. It's not a serious competition whatsoever. I don't know who decided that it is, but it is not. Yes, it's a cool opportunity for some fans from around the globe to kind of get a chance to see their teams live. But if anyone calls it like a serious competition, I'm going to freaking lose my head. But Ben Jacobs adds United's position remains the same on Fernandes, that he's not for sale. Bruno apparently told Al Hilal last year that he wants to stay at United until at least after the 2026 World Cup. Like I said the other day, like Bruno could still go to the Saudi League in a year if he wants to. I think the money is really difficult to turn down. Like we've talked about that at length last week. It's really difficult to turn down the money. But at the same time, Bruno staying for a year could be a big help during a transition period. It can mean we don't have to worry about replacing him right away. We can work on that while we address other issues. It goes back and forth. Maybe I'll have you guys answer me in the chat. Let me put a poll in here. Take big money for Bruno now keep him for a year to help the transition. Bear with me. All right, you guys let me know what you think there. Take the money now for Bruno if Al Hilal come back, or let him go in a year and try to keep him. There's a chance that he could not go in a year. There's a chance that they might move on. There's also a chance he could continue to do well. Who knows? Or there's a chance another club could come in for him if he continues to improve. But you guys let me know what you think. Bruno, Al Hilal, take the money and run, or keep him for the year, because there's a good chance that he can still go next year. But moving on to what Goals for Georgia does not want to talk about. So Ben Jacobs and Alex Crook. I know it's Talk Sport. I'm just telling you who said it. I think they attach Ben Jacobs' name to it because that gives it a little bit more like notoriety. But yeah. But they have provided an update on our reported links with Ipswich striker Liam Delap, who I know we haven't talked about him in a while, but this is their update. So the update is United are optimistic of signing Delap if we win the Europa League. United and Chelsea are currently the two leading Premier League clubs considering triggering Liam Delap's 30 million release clause. Remember that release clause is now active because they were relegated. And then apparently Delap is waiting to see who gets what at the end of the season, but United have made a strong pitch already. He is the number one striker target, and United have the financial means to sign both Delap and Cunha. So big claims there from Ben Jacobs that we could get Cunha and Delap, and we have the money to do so early in the window if they can reach an agreement. So it sounds like we are claiming that we have the money and that we're just trying to get our business done. Reportedly, Delap wants to make a decision before he leaves for the Under-21 European Championship, which kicks off early June, I want to say, is when that starts, like June 10th, 11th. Alex Crook goes on to claim that Delap would prefer a return to the north, the Manchester area. Maybe he came through City's Academy. That's where Wilcox knows him from. But it is Alex Crook, so you never know. These Delap rumors just won't go away. I mean, they died down a little bit last week, but as I said, they're popping back up because it's silly season now. United are in the news. Everyone's kind of jumping on board right now. Has anybody changed their mind on Liam Delap since we were first linked? Does anyone think that Delap and Højlund are the future? I don't have a problem with a young striker. Just like Højlund. It reminds me a lot of the Højlund, though, situation. Granted, Delap is a few years older than Højlund was when we signed him, so an argument can be made that he's a little bit more developed than Højlund, but I would like an older striker who doesn't need a whole lot of coaching and developing, someone who just needs to learn a little bit how to work in this system the way Amorim wants him to play, but a striker who's not going to need 10 chances to put one away, someone who's going to be able to do that in like 4, 5, 6 chances. I need just a little better goal return, a little bit more confident in front of the net, a little bit more just like maturity, I guess. Someone who can, and also someone who can teach these younger strikers too. Remember Delap's season it's been a good season by his standards, but it's not been as good as Højlund's was last year. But a lot of people think Delap is better. What I will concede, though, regarding Delap versus Højlund is I think Delap of the two looks the more well adapted to the Premier League in English football, if that makes sense. He does play. The way he plays on the pitch is more of what you're going to need in this league. I think he's a little bit more physical, a little bit more savvy in that regard. I think I don't have to worry about him falling down all the time like I do with Højlund. So if I had to go back in time and we were getting like an older striker and then maybe we're getting like a younger striker, if you put this Delap and that Højlund together, I probably would have opted for Delap. But again, I really like Højlund. When he was at Atalanta, he was excellent. But what are you going to do? Two 22-year-old strikers probably is not good enough. One of those, if we get Delap, I'd still think we would need to get an older striker is my point. So, but you guys let me know what you think on that. We got our first new big summer link. So this is coming from journalist Nico Shara. Claims that United and City have shown interest in Sandro Tonali. That's not going to fucking happen. Shara adds that Newcastle have no interest in selling, of course. Why would they? Now, Corriere dello Sport reports that United are prepared to test Newcastle's resolve with an £85 million bid. It's not going to happen. I love Tonali. You guys know I like Tonali. I loved him way back when he was balling out for Brescia. I used to sign him in my FIFA all the time. I thought he was just a perfect holding mid. He's really added a couple strings to his bow this season with Newcastle since returning. He's getting very more involved higher up the pitch. At Brescia, he was very much just a patrolling kind of defensive holding midfielder, and he's really stepped up his game. And I love it. He's so young still, too. He's really good. That was before all the gambling bullshit, though. I don't judge. I'm not judging anybody. But it would be foolish to not take the gambling stuff into consideration. Same with Ivan Toney, for instance. Just if they do claim, for instance, if they do claim it's addiction, what a lot of these footballers are claiming now once they get caught, then that's a big concern because that's not something that you just get over overnight. It's something that if it is an addiction, then you need to make sure that it's getting addressed, that it's constantly getting addressed, that there are resources there, that there are like a plan for these people when they're struggling. And if it's not an addiction, then again, that's a bigger concern because what are you doing? So interesting stuff. I don't think it's going to happen. We're not going to. It's going to if it's going to cost 85 million. There's no way. I like Tonali. I'd take him in a heartbeat, but it's not going to happen. And then finally, a little last bit of news here. So apparently, according to Jamie Jackson, the 1958 the fan group, they are planning another anti-Glazers protest during our final match of the season. We do play Villa in the final match after the Europa League final, which is strange still to me. But their message remains loud and clear. So this is what the 1958 had to say about this. Our final home game of the season is against Aston Villa. We march as one fan base to make it clear. 20 years on, the fire still burns red. With fury and defiance, we want the Glazers out of our club. They were never welcome. They are not welcome now. They will never be welcome. Interesting stuff. Very interesting. How do you guys feel about the protests and everything? Do you feel like, do you support that? Do you feel like they're pointless? Do you feel like it really does anything? I mean, we had the protests. We saw, remember the Super League protest that got that match called off, and it got one of our training sponsors. They pulled out. Remember the training sponsor for Carrington pulled out. So it does have an effect. I wonder though how much these kind of one-off kind of protests matter. I wonder because it's been 20 years, like it's saying. So it's 20 years of this. I mean, a lot of these fans they defected, right? They started FC United of Manchester. Excellent bunch of people. They did come here to play Detroit City FC a while back. Excellent. I loved it. But interesting. Let me know what you guys think about all that. Anybody in that area going to be going to the protest? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. So on the final, though, I did see this morning. I forgot we had one more little bit here. So Simon Peach has informed us this morning that the referee for our Europa League final has been decided. His name is Felix Zweier. Now, a lot of you are like, who cares? It's the ref. Well, I care because I responded to it on Twitter, but this guy was actually suspended for 6 months a few years back for his involvement in match fixing and taking bribes. So there was another referee that was involved. This guy was involved as well, suspended for 6 months. So what you're saying is if whoever gives them the biggest brown envelope is going to win, right? Now it's just like, why is this guy still refereeing? Why is a guy who has literally been suspended for half a year for match fixing, bribing involvement, why is he refereeing, period, let alone a European final? Like, why? Who decided that this ref, who is literally a history of bribery and match fixing, is going to referee the final? It's absolute garbage. This is going to be a stressful final, and this just adds to it because now every decision this guy makes, especially like contentious ones, are going to be scrutinized. They're going to be like whatever losing side was, whatever side doesn't win, they're going to point at those decisions. And again, it's just like Michael Oliver refereeing matches and stuff, or what's that dude, the Coot, Simon, whatever that Coot guy name was. All it does is it raises more questions than it does more harm than good, in my opinion. I can't believe Rob's doing his part. Maybe we'll get a GoFundMe. We'll start a GoFundMe. Just slip this guy a bunch of money, and we'll just make sure that trophy's ours at the end of the day. Oh, big up, Jules. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, that was. I saw that this morning, and I was like, okay. First thing I do whenever I see these random refs announced for us in these big matches, I gotta look up like, what's the history of this ref. And literally the first thing that pops up is this guy was suspended. And I'm like, come on, do we not have a better pool of referees to choose from? It's absolutely ridiculous. So you guys let me know your thoughts. We obviously are going to be doing a big preview of that one next week, so be sure to stop by. I'm hoping to have some people here with me for that one. Make it really fun. Try to do it big, and then obviously the final is going to be excellent. So we do play Chelsea on Friday. Keep a lookout for a preview for that one as well. I do have class on Thursday, so if I do a preview, it's probably going to be Thursday evening, maybe Thursday morning. Class is like 12 to 2. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do, but championship playoffs resume today, so it's Sheffield United hosting Bristol City in their second leg. Now, remember, Sheffield beat Bristol 3-0 in the first leg, so Bristol will be hoping to come back. It's a big mountain to climb, but we'll see what happens. Everyone's kind of eager to see who joins us next year. So Jules says, for the poll, I haven't even checked the poll since I put it out there. Thank you for reminding me. So take the money. It's split. So there is no price being, obviously the price that people were throwing around last week was like 150 million. I'm not sure what any sort of substantial source that came from. That was just the price. Remember last November, there were a lot of these rumors that the Saudi League were going to be going in for him, and the price back then was like 100. Now, Al Hilal had a lot of money set aside for Mo Salah, like a huge package. And so all that money is still there to play with, but haven't seen an official price or an offer. It's got to be a big offer. We talked a little bit about it last year with the sort of package and everything they were putting at, but Jay says 1958 planned protest. Yeah, man, we just got done talking about that, bud. I was asking you guys about that. I put up the statement from the 1958 as well. I could put it back up there if you want to see it, Jay. So yeah, this is what the 1958 had to say. Jules says, "Okay, yeah, it's hard, man. You take if they want him that badly now, it's just depending. Would they not come back in for him in a year? Do you think, or is it just this is it? This is the summer that we're going to do it? Because he could still go there in a year, and having him here for another year would help us. But at the same time, having 150 million, if that's the price that's getting thrown out, that's a big help for us in terms of our rebuild. That could literally get you 5-6 players, depending on if you're throwing any free agents in there, like your Bashali, like Jonathan David, even Angel Gomez, Jonathan Tah. You can get all those guys. Alex Merritt, if you wanted a good keeper, will be free this summer as well. That's 5 players for free. That's a whole new defense. That is a creative midfielder. That is your striker and your keeper. That's your spine right there, and they're all free. That doesn't even start with the players that you're selling, and it doesn't even start with money that you still have to work with. So it's interesting stuff when you start looking into when I did my summer budget rebuild, and it did not take much personally. So Rob doesn't think the protest actually does some. So we've seen that some of these protests have done stuff. I think would be good for them to kind of do because you can say like for people who want to do like walkouts. I've heard the argument like, well, they already paid their ticket. Yes. But money is just one factor. So if you do a walkout in the middle of a big match, that's media coverage, and the media will go hard. They covered the Liverpool match that got called off pretty good. I think that could send a message as well, but I'm not part of the 1958, so it's not up to me. So Jules says, I'm somewhat confused by the 1958. Who are they suggesting replaces the Glazer? Do they back Ineos? I think the 1958 are just anything or just anti-Glazer no matter. And I think that's why Sir Jim and Ineos, and I'm not saying that they've been angels because they're not, but I think that some of it is catching some strays because the Glazers are still here. Now, remember, Sir Jim's overall bid valued the club higher than the Sheik reportedly did. Now, if the Sheik, people are like, well, why didn't they sell the Qataris? Again, the Qatar didn't have the money. If they wanted to pay the full, they would have paid the full fee. A lot of stuff goes into that. So the plan always was for Sir Jim to come in and take over within a couple of years fully. Now, he already added to his percentage that he owns, and he'll probably continue to add. But there's a lot that has to go on. I mean, I wouldn't want to come in and take over this debt right away, but he knew that going in. So I hear every single side of the argument. There's not really a right or wrong. It's a shit situation that we're in, man. It's just rough. I'm not sure the ins and outs exactly of the 1958. They stopped and talked to Stretford Paddock a couple times, so you could get some, or maybe that's Must. I can't remember. I can't keep them straight, to be honest with you. But you could go watch a couple of those old videos. But I'm sure that Stretford Paddock will have a video featuring a representative from the protest group, or the supporters group, I guess is a better way to call it, closer to that match. Rob says, I think they want him for the Club World Cup, so might be less later. I say take it. Yeah, some people are saying just take the money. Compose V says, there has to be a balance in the team. I recruit players in the age range of 24, 27. Yeah, I like leaders. I like experience. I like experience on the big stage, in tough leagues, in Champions League. So it's just, you also want to have some young players because you want to have a good balance. You want to get some players where they're young and develop them. And you're naive if you don't think that these owners and these directors of football aren't also looking at young players solely to try to make money off them in the future. That's part of their job as well. So I don't like it. I'm not saying it's what it is. It's just not every academy player that we like, not every academy player that we think is going to be great is going to be here in the long haul. Some of them are just going to get moved on. We've already seen it. So it is what it is, though. But keep a lookout for all that. Like I said, championship playoffs are again today, so watch those if you want to get a idea of Sheffield, or I even forget who's still playing. Coventry is in the other one as well. So, but that's going to do it for me, you guys. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a longer stream today because a bit of news to go over, and then obviously I wanted to get that match out of the way because that was annoying. But let me know your thoughts. If you weren't able to catch the live, I do appreciate it. I did enjoy the chat today. It was really cool, engaging chat. I welcome any and all opinion. Just be able to give me some reasons for why you feel what you feel. That's all I ever ask. So until next time, you guys, like that video for me. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check the memberships. Check the UVE store as well if you guys want to get some cool one-of-a-kind merch for you, your husband, your wife, whoever, your kids. Rob says, now they can have Bruno for 140 mil. Take it off our hands. Could we not loan Bruno for 150 mil for the tournament? I mean, maybe just let him go play for the tournament. No, we've got our own bullcrap tournaments we got to play in. We got to go fly to I even forget where we're going now. I can't stand preseason and summer. Unless it's like World Cup or Euros, I'm really not that interested. But anyway, you guys, take it easy. Thank you for stopping by. Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you weren't able to catch the live, you guys know I do keep a lookout for those. But until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your Monday. Try not to let yesterday ruin the rest of your day today. And I will see you guys on the next one.